Welcome to another edition of Talking Models. Today we're continuing our series on Blackheart models and their universal monsters, the wall hangers. Up today is The Bride, from that beautiful film, The Bride of Frankenstein. Some argue that that film was better than the first one. I tend to lean toward the first one, but truly do love The Bride of Frankenstein. We see the monster speak. We see him trying to make friends with someone. We see him judged. We see him mistreated. And ultimately, we see a love story that really never got started between Frankenstein and the bride. So these are currently available through Blackheart Models. And this one is beautifully sculpted by Jeff Yagher and is available. So hit up George Stevenson and say, I want one of these gals. So I'm going to talk a little bit about today what I did with the bride. She was base coated for the hair, and the shirt part was all done in black. The rest of it was left in the automotive gray primer. This one was painted a little bit ago, and a lot of the colors I'm not clear on what I use, but I know they were all from the Garage US colors from Jessie. I tried some different colors with her flesh in this. Hair, I went with the traditional red, of course with the lightning bolt on her hair. So the bottom part of it basically was pretty simple for her gown, if you will. Over the gray, I simply used a ivory white and airbrushed that completely. And then it was just shaded with transparent Payne's gray for all the folds, so you can get all the detail in it and be able to get your shadowing down. And if you look at this piece, so it's really a beautiful piece. Jeff has got the folds in the hair, the eyes, her cheekbones, her mouth. She had the distinct look, the forehead, everything. He's got the scars on the side, on the top, on the other side. He has just captured so much, the detail in her gown. Then you talk about her hands with the bandages that she had on. There's so much detail as you truly look at this piece and just admire it. So that's why, for me, it was critical to try to get the shadowing in the gown and, of course, in the face, to step out of my comfort zone and try something different with her. You know, normally you can see her very pale flesh. I chose to give her more like a made-up look, as in a wedding, the bride. So what I did is I came in first with the basic flesh tone, and I believe, of course, for this I did use Garage US Colors Pale Flesh. I began, obviously, with a coat of that over the entire piece, and then it becomes building up with your shadowing, bringing in different shades. A lot of different colors were used in here. We've got over the pale flesh, I believe the other one is called Garage Flesh. Might be messing that up. But I just back and forth brought some of that in, toned it down, punched in some highlights, and actually brought in some red. Almost, it was like a pinkish red. Just kind of hit her, raised on her cheekbones, below her eyes, below her lips, above her lips. Just give her like a rosy look, like she had blush on. So that I worked in, again, in all the areas that you see the different coloring. It was just used with that pinkish rose color, just to give it some made-up look. And with that, I would come back in, of course, with the original pale flesh, the Garage color flesh, and then just some very light pastel work in here with some black, and there's also some brownish up here to blend in the hairline from the skin, just to kind of build up the shadows naturally in her and give her different skin tones. Building up skin tones can be tough. Building up skin tones are challenging. You know, when you're working on monsters and werewolves and things like that, it tends to be a little bit easier. But when you're dealing with actual flesh tones of people, that can be a little bit more of a challenge. So this was out of my comfort zone, out of what I would have normally done with a Bride of Frankenstein kit. But in the end, I was happy with the results. You just keep building your colors back and forth. Punch up a little bit more highlighted areas. Again, cheekbone, forehead, top of the nose, the chin area, ears, along the fronts. Anywhere that she has raised areas, that's where you want to kind of punch in your highlights. Your original color, if you will. Or you can lighten up that color and punch in some highlights. If it gets too out of hand, of course, you can just tone that down with a wash. Use one of your original colors. Mix it with a little bit of windshield washer fluid or some water. Mix it up, or a thinner like Extender from Badger, and then just spray it. And it gives you kind of a finishing touch. David Fisher always talked about taking the original color, thinning it down, holding back about 12 inches and just kind of misting over it just to blend everything together. Same technique in this. And it just seems to tie everything together. Now for her lips, I just went with a really bold red. I wanted to look like she had put lipstick on for the big wedding day. And if you remember in the film, her lips did stand out. Teeth was straight up. I used a real light gray instead of a stark white and just kind of airbrushed the tips of it with the ivory white, just to kind of tone it down a little bit so it kind of all blends together. Now our eyes, we had a lot of fun with that. I wanted to go with a stark green. So basically once I drew in her pupil, you just find how you want her eyes to look. You make your pupil in, get it to where you want it. And then what I like to do with that, I've talked about in previous videos, is just feather the outer end of the iris with a pastel black to kind of give it that feathered look so it looks blended in and not a hard line. And then what I did with that is I came in with a little bit of a darker green, and I simply just painted that in, left a hint of the black surrounding the outer iris of the eye. Then I came in with a lighter green, and what I did with that is I brought out my Badger Chrome, and I could just get some fine detail. And I just simply came in and airbrushed the center, leaving a hint of the green on the real stark edge of it. And then of course you have the hint of the black on the darker color. So it gives a natural progression of the color as it comes into the center. Now to accomplish that, you want to move in close with your airbrush. Be careful, lower your PSI, careful with your trigger finger. Just kind of get in there and I like to get a little circular motion going. And as I get closer to the center, I get closer with the brush, which gives it like a lighter to lightest. And that's what I ended up doing with her eye. Once you get that finished, you come in and you want to add in the pupil. So for that is, for me, it's just taking a fine brush. And what I like to do is just get that little iris going. Usually I do my moons, a full moon. Once I'm happy with that, I fill it in, and then I come back in with the pastel, and I feather the edges of the pupil so it looks more like an eye. It's not that hard, stark circle where you can tell like it's just a hard circle. This blends it and it looks natural. So once I was done with that, I just, of course, with the red oxide, I always put that fine line just on the outer bottom rim of the bottom of the eyelid. Just come in there and punch that a little heavier. And then it was a little bit of pastel work on the corner of the eyes, on the edges, just to give it a distressed look. Just come in with your pastel with a red and kind of feather it in, blow it away. And of course, once you get to the sealing process of it with your gloss coat, everything just pops. And it just gives you the look that you see here. Above her eye, I just lightly hit it with some transparent black through the airbrush just to give a little bit of a change of tone. And of course I did the same on the outer edge of her hairline where it meets the skin. I usually just blow a little bit of a line through there up into the hair because you're going to color that anyway. And it just gives you that nice transition. Her scars, I believe I brought out, which is one of my favorite colors for from the Badger Freak Flex, is Sunburn Red. And I just simply drew in the scars right in the center of the scar itself. And then you just come in with a pastel of purple, just kind of brush it in on the scar area. for that distressed look that looks like it's sore because it's a scar. And you just feather all that in, and then you can come back in with like a transparent pink, and you just kind of hit the whole thing kind of quick but not heavy, and it gives you the finished look that you see. Came back in with that same purple, and I kind of did some pastel work under her eyes to give it that sunken kind of look, but yet pale like dead, but yet alive like a big day, the wedding. And that's how I accomplished everything that you see on her face. Now for her hair, over the black, it was simply getting some dark red, and I airbrushed that in completely over the whole hair, not too hard so you can leave some of the black coming through. Just kind of airbrush it in. You could dry brush it too. Dry brush a little bit of red in the front area just for a stark difference, and then come in with your black, transparent black, and just hit the shadows. You can also use like a brown, a raw umber, kind of mist it over, and that was also used a little bit in the hair too. Now for the streak, the lightning bolt if you will, that was straight up light gray, airbrush through, and then just shadowed in with some transparent black. Last but not least is her bandaged hand. Over the black, it was just a lot of colors using like rotten tooth tan, just spraying different colors over the black, leaving some of the black to bleed through. And then you can also come back in, I believe with this I might have used the Poisonous Plague Yellow from Badger Freak Flex, and just hit some yellowing effect with it. And then you come in with a nice raw umber, some transparent dark brown, transparent raw umber, spray the whole piece here, dirty it up a little bit, and come back in with your original color for the bandage and just hit the highlight areas of the hand. And that is how we brought the Bride of Frankenstein to life. I'll spin her back a little bit so she's watching you instead of me. And this is a beautiful companion piece to the Frankenstein piece from Blackheart, sculpted by Mike Hill, which we did the video before this. And then you'll have these happy, short-lived couple hanging on your wall display. A beautiful piece to add to your collection. That wraps up our look at the Bride of Frankenstein by Jeff Yagher. Our next installment will be looking at Nosferatu from this line of wall hangers. Then we'll follow that up with the the Werewolf of London, and that'll complete the wall hangers that I have done so far from Blackheart Models. There may be something in between there. I'm currently working on a Janus kit, the Ghoul, so that may find its way in between this one and Nosferatu, or between Nosferatu and the Werewolf of London, which was also sculpted by Mike Hill. So thanks for stopping in today to Talking Models. Thank you for subscribing. My goal was 100 a few months back, and we surpassed it. Now I'd like to try and see if we can hit 200. I know, well, more, right? Get the word out. Spread the word. Let other modelers know this channel exists. Maybe you'll pick something up today. And of course, I'm open for questions, comments. Hit me up if you need any information on paints, anything that I have. I will have links in the description of this video for Jesse, for Badger, and of course, I'm here if you need anything. So once again, thanks for stopping in. Please subscribe. Have a wonderful day today, and may God bless.